Hey everyone, real quick before we get in today's message for you, I just want to make a quick and little announcement. We are upgrading our studio here at Shepherd with a number of different upgrades, cameras, sound equipment, a bunch of things to try and make our digital products for you better. If you would be willing to support us in that effort, we're hoping to raise about $10,000 so that we can cover the cost of these upgrades, from lighting to microphones like this one here to some of the cameras that we'll be installing. We would love your help. You can give specifically to that initiative through the giving website. We'll have a special tab available for you. And if you would join us in that, I just want to extend my personal thanks to you and so much appreciation for this continued important ministry initiative as we strive to lead people to follow Jesus together here at Shepherd of the Desert. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's digital sermon. You'll notice we're in a little bit of a different background setup for today, and that's because we just installed this set background. We'll be making some adjustments to it over the course of time, but we'll also be switching up the other background that you normally see on here, and so that's just a part of the ongoing process of our studio upgrades, which you've heard a little bit about in a number of our messages so far. I'm Pastor John Carolus. It's great to be with you, and today we're continuing in our series, Why Some and Not Others, the contextual treatment of the words Jesus spoke from the cross. And we're still in Luke chapter 23 today, this time hearing about the episode and conversation between Jesus and the thief on the cross. And typically, this familiar story is used as an encouragement and comfort to us that no matter what happens in life, when Jesus covers us with his love, we are brought into his eternal kingdom forever. And the thief on the cross says, "Remember me." He speaks out in faith toward Jesus, and Jesus says, "Today you will be with me in paradise." And we embrace that promise from him. But what I want to talk to you today about is another element in which we experience that paradise as Christians in our earthly life before we die. And we can still find great comfort in those words, even though we may or may not be as close to death as that thief hanging on the cross was. So today, what I want to start with is just the suggestion that as human beings, especially as human beings in 21st century America, we are people who like good investments. We appreciate something that appreciates in value, whether it be getting into the housing market and buying a home that's going to increase in value over time, or putting your money to work in the stock market and wanting to earn a great return on that investment, or maybe even just looking at activities for your kids to do that will result in them having better opportunities for their education down the road. You might look at people on your team at work as good investments or poor investments. Who's going to maximize their own value and work ethic, and who's going to be on board to make things better. We are always considering what things are worth our investment. And we always appreciate good investments over bad ones. But if we were to look from a heavenly perspective, one that could see our entire life laid out on a piece of paper from beginning to end, and we were to look at all the deeds that someone might have or we might have as we look in the mirror, is this person doing good things or bad things? Are they thinking selfishly? Are they thinking in humility? Are they thinking for others? Are they doing things that are going to pay off in the long run? Or are they just looking for immediate gratification? The truth is, all of us would probably look at all those numbers added up and say, you know what, the investment just doesn't look too good. I'm not sure that the value actually increases over time based strictly on their decisions and their personality traits and their track record. And then if we add the element of God's divine perspective and we look within ourselves all the way down to the level of our human nature, there exists something there that you can't always see from the outside, and that is sin. Each of us is tarnished with a tendency to go our own way rather than God's, to think that we will be enough or find security in ourselves as opposed to turning to Him for all of our needs. For that reason, we are not good investments in the sense of being worth the time that one might put toward us in teaching us wisdom or sharing with us beautiful things, because we are always going to be searching after those things that just make us feel better or make us think that it'll be better for us in the long run. We are short-sighted, we are corrupt, we are bad investments. But let's turn the angle away from the focus away from ourselves and look out at the world and consider people who might be good or bad investments as well. And I don't want you to reflect on friends of yours or family of yours right now. No, we're going to turn to the text and look at someone who was with Jesus there on the last day of his life before he was buried. From Luke 23, we remember last week Jesus crying out, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." And how did the crowds respond to that appeal? At verse 35, Jesus says, or we hear from the people watching Jesus die on the cross, Luke writes, "The crowd watched and the leaders scoffed. He saved others, they said. Let him save himself if he is really God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers mocked him too by offering him a drink of sour wine. They called out to him, "If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself." A sign was fastened above him with these words, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging beside him scoffed, "So you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself and us too while you're at it." But the other criminal protested, "Don't you fear God even when you have been sentenced to die? We deserve to die for our crimes, but this man hasn't done anything wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus replied, "I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise." In that phrase, we have one of the most powerful, most vivid descriptions and communications of the gospel that exist in the Bible. We have Jesus himself saying, "Today you will be with me in paradise," responding to the cry of faith by the man dying next to him on the cross. But let's look at that man for a second. This is a thief who has been convicted of his crimes by a just system and is being put to death. I don't know what he stole. I don't know what he was taking, but it was extreme enough where he knew that he deserved to die, and he deserved all of the mockery, all of the public shame, all of the terrible torture and physical abuse that comes with crucifixion. He knew that it's what he deserved, and he knew that it's what the other thief deserved. And yet when he saw Jesus, he knew that something was different. And how does Jesus respond to that one? That one which the people gathered there that day, the Romans. If you and I were there to watch in person, we would assess him as being a bad investment, getting exactly what he deserved. What's Jesus' response? Jesus says, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Jesus says, even to that worst one, that his grace extends over him, that his love counts toward him, that his death would bring him life. He doesn't get into all the doctrinal details. He doesn't break into some theological exposition. Instead, he just says, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." Now, you and I hear this and we think, well, is that just a promise for somebody that's near death? The truth is that in faith, we can hear that promise and draw comfort from it, receive great encouragement from it, even in the midst of our daily living that looks like it will probably extend for years and years down the road. We get to experience the paradise that God brings through Jesus even now. And when Jesus speaks that word of gospel promise over us, our value is now no longer determined by our track record. Remember when we looked at ourselves from God's perspective, are they doing good things or bad things, selfish, or are they humble? Are they looking for others? Are they looking for themselves? Are they patient, or are they immediate gratification? None of that matters anymore, because when Jesus has spoken over us, now what we are measured by from God's perspective is his perfection and his blood rather than our own. And you and I are seen in that light, and now our value has exponentially appreciated. It can't be described with words how valuable we are to God, except to say that he is willing to give his own son that he might save us. And when that son is given, the promise of life forever with him in paradise is ours. And he doesn't stop there by saying, now just hang on to that promise until you die. He says, let me give you glimpses of that paradise in this life. Let me sustain you through the gift of my body and blood, around which table you will gather as a celebration of the heavenly feast that is to come. Let me give you a gift of baptism so that you can be brought tangibly into my family with this sign to cling to and remember, and know that I am effectively washing you of your sin with this water and this word together, by the power of the Spirit. Let me give you a glimpse of the fellowship that you'll have in heaven when you come together for worship together as a family of believers, as you confess your sins together and receive absolution, forgiveness together. You are now bound, not by the blood in your veins, not by your political affiliation, not even by your church membership, denominational specificity. Instead, you are bound by the word of Jesus over you. Today, you will be with him in paradise. Today, that paradise is ours in glimpses and one day will be in fullness forever. This is the good news we have through Jesus on the cross to that thief. Today, we will be with him in paradise. And we'll get to meet that thief. And who knows what he will have to share with us on that day when we sing our voices together eternally to God's glory and majesty. When we get to see Christ reigning on his throne in person with his body, we'll get to look in his eyes. But until then, we do have the glimpse of paradise in our expression of the Christian community, in our receiving of God's gifts, in our praising of him with our voices together. And we know that no matter what might come our way in this life, no matter what our value might appear to be to others, there is no limit to the value that we have because of Christ. And on top of that, to take things to the next level, the next step, to make it go even further, God doesn't just give you this glimpse and this taste of eternity and paradise. He says, I want you to bring this into the world on my behalf. I want you to represent me in the world to the people around you because I want you to be another delivery person of this good news. Just as Christ was sent in the world to preach, to teach, to perform miracles, to bring about the kingdom of God, now we as citizens of that kingdom have been given the same invitation to bring that kingdom out there into the world through the words of mercy and the gospel, to invite people to consider the great love that God has through them, for them, through Christ in the Spirit. This is great news. This is a wonderful comfort for us because now we don't fear death. Now we don't fear changes in circumstances. Now we don't even fear life changing to the point where we don't recognize the world because we know there will be an eternal place where all of our fears are put away and where all of our divisions are laid to rest and we exist together forever under the unity of God himself. I can't wait to continue in this series with you as we consider the context within which Jesus' words from the cross are spoken, the Gospel of Luke capturing these themes of Jesus bringing glimpses of the kingdom to bear in human life. John, the gospel writer who expresses so beautifully the power of Jesus' word to change things in the world. Matthew, the analytical messianic prophecy fulfiller, the one who speaks about Jesus as the one promised in the pages of the Old Testament. It's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful gift that we have to consider these words of Christ in the context of those particular expressions of the gospel. And I hope that as you go through the week ahead, you would do so keeping your eye open for those glimpses of paradise, participating in the work of inviting others into that experience, and that God would bless you and keep you until next time we're able to reflect on Jesus' words together from the cross. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.